Cop gets off duty, goes home, goes to her apartment, somehow opens the door. There's a guy standing there. She's white. She's a woman. He's apparently a man, an African American man. Some kind of command or orders. And of course, all of this is from her perspective that I'm giving you this information. He doesn't respond to those orders, and she puts a bullet in him and murders him. She is on the wrong floor. She is in the wrong room. It is his apartment. He doesn't have to listen to her commands in his apartment. She's off duty. None of the story makes sense. How did she get into his apartment? Did he have his door open? Did she use her key? Did her key work? All of these things, I have no idea. What I do know is that she shot a man in his own apartment. This is grotesque even for the police force, right? Amber Guyger was sentenced. She was convicted first, and today she was sentenced. I know a lot of African Americans who said, yeah, let's wait till the sentencing. Because the conviction in and of itself wasn't enough. Because our thing was, is she going to get sentenced with anything real? Well, she got sentenced to 10 years. It just broke that Amber Guyger, the woman, the ex-cop, that murdered a guy in his own house, in his own apartment, literally in his own apartment, is sentenced to 10 years. This story is weird. And I wasn't following each and every detail of this particular story, but the basics of that, for the most part, haven't changed. She goes to the wrong apartment and murders a guy in his own apartment. I gotta be honest, the story is weird to me. I don't leave my door unlocked to my apartment, and maybe he did. So maybe she went to the door and checked the key, and the key, like, all of this is a little dicey to me. And it's a little strange. I mean, I thought the story was strange when the story first broke. But nevertheless, the basics of the story remain the same. A man in his own apartment was shot by an ex-cop who, based on what she's saying, thought somebody was in her apartment. It wasn't her apartment. They even tried to use the defense of the quote-unquote castle doctrine. This notion that if I am in my own place, I can defend myself. Well, right off the bat, you can see the problem. She is not in her own place. Their thought was, well, if she was in her own place in her mind, if she thought she was in her own house, she should still get the ability to defend herself as if she was in her own house, despite not being in her own house. Nevertheless, she kills a guy, 10 years. She should be sentenced to way more than 10 years. How ridiculous. Was there any motive established? Not that I'm aware of. I mean, they're still going with this notion that she went to the wrong apartment by accident and thought somebody was in her apartment. That's the way they're going with. So their notion of like, in that case, you don't need to establish that she did it on purpose. Like, you don't need to establish, that she went with some kind of malicious intent. Based on their perspective of the case and based on what they're saying is what took place, she accidentally went to the wrong apartment. And she thought somebody was standing in her apartment, which was the wrong apartment, on the wrong floor. And that she shot him because he wasn't listening to her commands while he was in his apartment, if I'm not mistaken, eating cereal. The motive didn't need to be established, according to her theory of the case, or her, according to what she's saying. No motive needed to be established. It wasn't done intentionally or maliciously. It was done by accident. The story is fishy. Addy Warp, yes, agreed. The story is fishy. Did he leave his door open? Did he leave his door open? Did she have a key to his apartment? Like, the story is weird. The story is strange to me. Even if I could somehow believe that you're on the wrong floor, which is a jump for me, Nobody I know leaves the door open on an apartment. Nobody. Same thing, Addy Warp. I don't function that way. I mean, there may be some people that do it though, so I can't. It's like, if I'm being honest, I can't necessarily apply my perspective of the world to the rest of the world. People have all sorts of ways of operating. Question is, did Botham James just leave his door open, where somebody could just walk up, open, and the story is weird. They say he left the door open, but I also heard that her keys were in the door. Ebony Fryer. The story is strange. The story is strange. But like I said, I don't know all the details of the story. And from the standpoint of the basics and the story that they went with in court, it seems that, they didn't need to establish malicious intent or anything like that. Based on her story, it was an accident. All right. Like, share, subscribe. This was just kind of an update on what was taking place.